Cultivating Conservation. I'm Sarah Hirsch. In this module, we're going to discuss conservation agencies and programs. The first thing I'm going to discuss is different agencies involved in conservation efforts. Cooperative Extension is a department with public land-grant universities that provide research and education. They often will cover the areas of 4-H youth development, agriculture and natural resources, and horticulture and nutrition. The United States Department of Agriculture Farm Service Agency is a federal agency that provides implementation and funding. They support federal programs, they provide farm loans, and other types of farm support. The United States Department of Agriculture Natural Resources Conservation Service provides technical assistance of federal programs. They work closely with the Farm Service Agency, as we will discuss further on in this module. They provide services such as conservation planning, soil surveys, and also financial assistance. The Department of Agriculture is an agency of a state, and they provide leadership and support in terms of regulatory things, marketing, and conservation efforts. They also often will have their own conservation programs that they administer. Soil conservation districts provide technical planning and support of state programs. They're often located in counties, and they provide services such as conservation planning, erosion and sediment control, planning, and land stewardship. And the Farm Bureau is an organization that provides representation and lobbying support. They're the legislative voice of agriculture, and they are a private nonprofit. So I'm going to start by going into some more details about the Natural Resources Conservation Service, which is often called the NRCS. The goal of the NRCS is to help care for and manage soil, water, air, plants, animals, and energy on farmland and forest land. The NRCS's natural resources conservation programs help to reduce soil erosion, enhance water supplies, improve water quality, increase wildlife habitat, and reduce damages caused by floods and other natural disasters. The NRCS provides technical support in their technical assistance program, and that provides knowledge and tools to farmers, ranchers, and forest landowners to help conserve and maintain and restore natural resources on their lands and improve the health of their operations for the future. This technical support is provided to producers at no cost, and the goal is to give personalized advice and information. So they will meet with the producer one-on-one, talk about their individual circumstances and operation, and based on the latest science and research, help the producers to make informed decisions about best practices on their land. If producers would like to take this help a step further, then they could request a conservation plan, which is also a free service provided by the NRCS. So the NRCS will work with the farmers to help them develop a formal conservation plan, and that will have suggested conservation practices that can help reach production and conservation goals. In a previous module, we touched on different types of conservation practices, and we will go over them a bit more in this module as well. In addition, the NRCS can provide financial support, which producers can choose to apply to, and that could help provide financial assistance to help installing the conservation practices that were outlined in their conservation plan. One important thing to note is that no matter the size of the farm or the operation, there's usually some kind of conservation practice that would apply or fit to that operation. So this is not just for large operations. We already talked about conservation practice standards in a previous module, but I just wanted to note that on the NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Service website, you can see a lot of different practices, actually 165 different practices listed out, and kind of just browse through and see what types of things you think may apply for your operation or your land. However, the practice standards should not be used to plan, design, or install conservation practice, because the actual details and protocols and plans are developed state by state to ensure that all the state and local criteria are being met, because sometimes those criteria can be more restrictive than the national criteria. So just to give you an idea, here's just the conservation practices, part of the list of 165. And you could just browse through any of these practices, see what types of things conservation encompasses, but you could also click on an individual one. So for example, here we'll click on the roof runoff structure. And then it'll give you more detailed information. And if you went ahead and clicked on the roof runoff structure overview document, you would get a fact sheet that looks something like this. And this will basically just tell you more about that practice, and you can read about it and see if it may apply to your farm. One thing that I'm going to emphasize over and over again in this module is that it's really important, while it's great to do some background research and look through the practices on your own, what you really need to do is go into your local Natural Resource Conservation Office or Soil Conservation District office and talk to the personnel there to figure out what may be the best practices and programs and the best fit for your individual operation. Because again, a lot of this information and practice standards are going to be different based on your locality. So with that said, I wanted to continue talking about some things that you could do on your own if you just want to look through and do a little bit of research about types of practices that may apply to you. So there's another website from the Natural Resource Conservation Service, NRCS, called Solutions for Small Scale Farmers. And again, this can be really helpful to just look over the different fact sheets of practices that may apply to a small scale farmer if that fits your criteria. So here again, you could see more information about the same type of practice that we looked up on the last slide about runoff management. So there's a fact sheet to that that's specific for small scale farmers. And you could see solutions for your farm regarding runoff management and just learn more about that practice so you can go into your office, maybe armed with more information or questions to ask your local personnel. But again, it's very important to just go in and talk to someone, because while these websites are really helpful and have a plethora of information, it's not always all there. So for example, high tunnels are a very common practice among small scale farms, but high tunnels are not actually listed on their website in the list of solutions for small scale farmers. So there is other information about high tunnels that you can find on the NRCS website. There is some within the EQIP program, and here in the next few slides, we'll talk about the EQIP program. But also there's another website within the organic, the organic website that talks about high tunnels. So it's great to look through some of this information, but be aware that these different practices there may be funding available for them through different programs. And it's really important to go into your office and talk to your local people about the practices you may be interested in and ask them which programs they will offer those practices through. Another website here that is on the NRCS website is about organic agriculture, and there's a lot of information and details here if you are just looking to investigate and learn more about organic agriculture. But again, then you can go into your office and ask them about the details of what specific programs you could get help if you are interested in transitioning to organic agriculture. So now getting into the introduction to national programs. We already talked a bit about the NRCS website and the different practices that you can learn about on their website. And now we're going to go into the federal or national programs that are offered through NRCS and their partner agencies. So the Natural Resource Conservation Service has the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, known as EQIP. They have the Agricultural Management Assistance Program, known as AMA, and the Conservation Stewardship Program, or CSP. They work closely with the Farm Service Agency, which is another federal agency under the umbrella of the United States Department of Agriculture. So both NRCS and FSA fall under the umbrella of the United States Department of Agriculture. And the Farm Service Agency runs the Conservation Reserve Program, known as CRP, as well as the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program, which is related, known as CREP. So, starting with EQIP, the Environmental Quality Incentives Program. This is the NRCS flagship conservation program that helps farmers, ranchers, and forest landowners to integrate conservation into working lands. They provide financial and technical assistance to agriculture producers and non-industrial forest managers to address those natural resource concerns on their property and to deliver environmental benefits such as improving water and air quality, conserving ground and surface water, increasing soil health and reducing soil erosion and sedimentation, improving or creating wildlife habitat, and mitigating against drought and increasing weather volatility. So the funds do not pay to start up a farming operation. So a lot of times new farmers will think that these programs are going to give them money to start farming, and that's not how they work. They're there to support conservation efforts on existing farms. So for example, they will not pay for animals, but if you have animals, they can provide support to help you manage those animals. Some examples of programs that may be offered through EQIP, and again, this varies county by county or region by region. There's programs to help with organic and transitioning farmers, seasonal high tunnels, grazing programs, converting cropland to pasture. In that case, EQIP will pay for the planting and fencing. But in the case if you already have hay, then EQIP will help to overseed or renovate, but they will not pay for fencing. And importantly, historically underserved participants are eligible for advanced payments to help offset costs related to purchasing materials or contracting services through EQIP. In addition to your programs such as EQIP, the Natural Resource Conservation Service has things called initiatives that are kind of within those programs. So for example, there's an organic initiative which is funded through the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, or EQIP, but it kind of has its separate tangential pool of money. And then there's also a high tunnel initiative, which is also through the EQIP program, but a separate pool of money. So for the organic initiative, you can read more about it on their website, but basically producers may apply either to EQIP or EQIP's organic initiative to be in that ranking pool and to potentially get funding. So again, really important to go into your local office and ask them about these different things and which programs or initiatives may apply to your region or for your operation. The Agriculture Management Assistance Program is another program bundled within the programs that the NRCS offers. And this program helps agricultural producers to manage financial risk through diversification, marketing, or natural resource conservation practices. So while the NRCS administers the conservation provisions, it works closely with other agencies, for example, the Agriculture Marketing Service and the Risk Management Agency implement the production diversification and marketing provisions. Producers may construct or improve water management structures or irrigation structures. They may plant trees for windbreaks or to improve water quality, or they may mitigate risk through production of diversification or resource conservation practices, such as soil erosion control, integrated pest management, or transitioning to organic farming. So a lot of different types of practices may fall within this AMA, Agriculture Management Assistance Program. And again, talk to your local office about what may apply to you within that program. So you may notice that certain practices like transitioning to organic or high tunnels, they could potentially fall within different programs. So there may be different paths of funding to have the same end result of having a high tunnel built on your farm. So the AMA program provides financial assistance for up to 75% of the cost of installing practices, and they will not exceed, the total payments will not exceed $50,000 per participant for any fiscal year, but they may offer additional higher cost share above that 75% for historically underserved producers. The third program we're going to talk about within the Natural Resource Conservation Service is the Conservation Stewardship Program, or CSP. This program is a bit different because it helps to build on existing conservation efforts while strengthening the operation. So basically, if you're already taking steps to improve the condition of the land, CSP can help you find new ways to meet your goals or take conservation to that next level. So for example, if you're already cover cropping, you may decide to try enhancement for a multi-species cover crop to further improve your soil health. So the NRCS will work with the producers one-on-one. You'll develop your conservation plan and kind of look at ways that you can enhance existing efforts. The Conservation Reserve Program is a program that is administered by the Farm Service Agency. So that provides yearly rental payments to farmers who remove environmentally sensitive land from agricultural production and plant species that will improve environmental health and quality. While the Farm Service Agency administers the program, the NRCS is still involved because they will assist with the technical assistance through the conservation planning. And this program has a longer contract than some of the other programs, so land is enrolled for 10 to 15 years in length. And the long-term goal of the program is to reestablish valuable land cover to help improve water quality, prevent soil erosion, and reduce loss of wildlife habitat. The Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program is part of the Conservation Reserve Program. However, it is geared toward a high priority area or goal. So there's high priority conservation goals identified by the state, and then the federal funds will be supplemented with non-federal funds to achieve those goals. So an example in Maryland would be the Chesapeake Bay CREP, sometimes called CREP. There are incentives to encourage landowners to implement best management practices that will help to reduce sediment and nutrients to the Chesapeake Bay and also improve wildlife habitat. And they're seeking to enroll up to 100,000 acres of agricultural land situated in Maryland. So this program is specific to that Chesapeake Bay region. And again, it's administered by the Farm Service Agency, but the NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Service, is there and cooperating to provide that technical assistance. So considerations when choosing a good program, and definitely your local folks at your offices can help you kind of work through some of these considerations and determine what may be the best program and practices for you in your operation. But some things to keep in mind is that the Conservation Reserve Program, CRP contracts, they're really much longer term. So 10 years is a big commitment. As all the programs, they are a legally binding contract, even if the land changes hands within that time. And the Farm Service Agency can terminate the contract for non-compliance if producers are not meeting the standards. And if it is terminated, that producer will be responsible to pay back rental payments and the cost share to install the practice and liquidated damages. So with all these things in mind, it may not be the best practice for a beginning farmer to enroll in. However, some of the other programs, EQIP, and some of the other NRCS programs, they are also a legally binding contract, but it's much shorter term. So the practice will need to be implemented within 12 months. So you're not signing up for that 10 to 15-year commitment. The payments for the NRCS and FSA programs, so for all of the federal programs we discussed, they do work on reimbursement. So you have to implement the practice to the standards, and then the technician or planner will come out and verify that you meet those standards, and you also will be required to submit supporting paperwork that shows your inputs, etc. There are low interest loans for agricultural conservation called LILAC loans, or the LILAC program. And these are loans that are available to help farmers install best management practices on their farms. They could help purchase conservation equipment or adopt new technologies that can help to protect natural resources and safeguard water quality. And these can help to bridge that gap from the reimbursement from conservation programs. How to apply for NRCS programs and access other services like your free technical support. So we just discussed a whole bunch of programs, and it's pretty overwhelming. So again, what are the first step I would say is definitely go ahead and visit your local field office, your NRCS office, or your Soil Conservation District office, and talk to someone there about your operation. Get your conservation farm plan. What types of practices make sense for your operation? So the first thing you want to do is go in, talk to someone, what are the available programs in your area, and make a plan. Then it is pretty straightforward from there. You start an application. They will help you to check your eligibility. Your application will be ranked. And then if you are granted that funding, you will implement your plan. And remember, even if you're not granted funding, you are still able to utilize this free technical support assistance, and also you can get your free conservation plan. So even if you're not interested in getting the funding or the cost share, you could still use those other resources. There are other sources of financial support beyond the federal level or the federal programs that we just discussed. So there may be programs available, technical or financial support at the state and regional levels as well. So we're going to use Maryland as an example. Within the Maryland Department of Agriculture, there's different conservation grants that will help with conservation programs and provide that cost share to help install practices. And also at times, even at the local level. So this was an example from a few years ago, and this was a pool of money to help with conservation practices that were specific to Maryland's Eastern Shore. So only those farmers that were on the Eastern Shore of Maryland could apply. Introducing some of the Maryland Department of Agriculture programs. This is their website here, and you can see the different programs offered are on the left. They have a cover crop program, and then they have a Maryland Agriculture Water Quality Cost Share program, which encompasses a lot of practices. So again, a great idea to go into your office and talk to someone about what may fit for your operation. But I wanted to point out that they also offer a few programs specific to small or urban farmers. And this is their Small Farm and Urban Agriculture program. Right now, they're offering a cover crop program geared toward small acreage growers, and they also have urban agriculture, water, and power grants. This is a list of if you Google the soil conservation districts, then you can find the numbers and the addresses for your local soil conservation district and learn more about what programs may be offered. And another resource would be this Conservation Choices guidebook for Maryland farmers, where you could search through some of the different practices. Thank you.